And so if I tell someone, oh, here's what I'm doing, they may do it like in the wrong place or do it over and over again. And because they don't have the training that goes behind it. But generally speaking, I'm trying to, by the way, that's not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to be honest with you.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest today, Jon Benson, started his online empire in 2004 with the release of his first best-selling book, Fit Over 40. The success of Fit Over 40 propelled him into the online marketing spotlight. He then went on to become the first fitness author to have 2 top 10 books on ClickBank Marketplace at the same time in 2 different categories, diet and fitness. In 2007, shortly after the release of his other book, The Every Other Day Diet, Jon began experimenting with a new way to market products online. He combined his training in NLP and psychology with what became the world's first ugly video sales letter, or VSL. The creation propelled Jon to the internet marketing fame and has since gone on to do well over $12 billion annually from marketers in virtually every online industry. Jon semi-retired from the fitness space in 2007 to focus on copywriting, a skill he wanted to refine, as well as helping other marketers create VSLs. This led to the creation of Exaggerate, the world's first software-driven VSL copywriting system. Exaggerate became the #1 copywriting course online and remains so to this day. Jon remains one of the few copywriters in history to earn over $1 billion for his customers. That's with a B. Today, Jon's focus on Email Copy Pro and doing for email what Exaggerate has done for the video sales letter, allowing marketers without copywriting expertise generate A-list caliber promotional and content emails with a few clicks of the mouse. Finally, he's the CEO of Digital Publisher Inc., which houses all of Jon's internet marketing products, services, and free materials, as well as the CEO of Fitology LLC, which controls Jon's fitness and diet empire. Whew! Jon.
That was a lot, man.
Rarely have guests with this many accolades. Jon, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
I have to update that, man. Email Copy Pro hasn't been around for years. It's Copy Pro.
It's now Copy Pro.
And it's now called now VSL rather than Exaggerate. I'm like, okay, I forgot to update my own homepage. There you go. Good reminder.
All good. We'll let you get deep into it. Well, I just appreciate you coming on the show. This is going to be a really, really good one for the listeners because I think you offer tremendous value. Copywriting is something that's fascinated me for a long time. I love the resurgence of it. We'll talk about that a little bit, what I mean by that. But really, I just got to ask, because reading the bio, did you really invent the VSL?
Really invented the VSL, yeah.
That's a crazy claim to fame.
Yeah, it's been one of the bigger ones for sure. Invented it, and it was. I'd love to say it was just sheer genius, but it was more blind luck than anything else. But really, just looking at a guy that was doing some stuff on. He wasn't in the fitness world. I forget what space he was even in. I think he was in BizOp, but he was using PowerPoint presentations instead of the typical videos that we were doing and sales pages. And it just dawned on me that you could use it. You could just have like 10 or 15 words on a slide and do the NLP stuff. And just kind of dawned on me, and it worked. So that has been a interesting little marketplace invention for sure.
Well, especially with the rise of it now and everyone doing it, it's crazy to kind of have the creator of it here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a story with you and Ryan Deiss? Didn't he like try to knock you off or knock off the VSLs? And now he's a good friend of you. I know you guys are good friends because I've seen the two of you talking. But isn't there a story there?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny one. That's how I met Ryan when I was living in Dallas at the time, and a friend of mine reached out. Nathan was working for him, and reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you come down here and teach Ryan and Perry this video sales letter thing you got going on?" So I drove down to Austin, and Ryan was about to have his first child. So this is how long ago this was. So he was half there. I mean, half out because, his brain was obviously somewhere else, and did not hear me say that I was turning this into a product, because he just looked at me as a, and it's just, some people still do, is, you're just the fitness guy, you just do the fitness marketing. And so he didn't think I was going to be in IM space, so I taught it to him, drove back to Dallas. Next thing I know, he comes out with a product. I get it back in my car to go down there and literally kill him. That's the way. So I didn't handle things through lawyers back then. I handled things through, I'm just going to, my dad was a boxer. I grew up in kickboxing, so I'm just going to go down there and just beat the shit out of you. And so Nathan's calling me on the phone, like literally I'm in my car, just going down 100 miles an hour. And he's like, dude, no, because I didn't know Ryan. I didn't know, I thought he's one of these, internet marketing guys that could just think that they could rip people off. And it wasn't that at all. He just totally didn't get that I was doing something. He's like, dude, whatever it takes, let's talk it through, man. Let's
A God-fearing, good Christian boy, Ryan Dice is.
No, and he is.
Yeah.
And so and it's really funny because I got to know him through that. He was like very, very, very cool. And so he told me, and to this very day, I've had people come up and say, I think he purposely did that. I'm like, dude, don't say that about my buddy, because it's not true. It's not true at all. But it's easy. It was easy to think that at the time, because I just got ripped off like the year before by another IM guy for another thing I came up with. So I was thinking, okay, this is just the trend. So instead of hiring lawyers to do it, I'm just going to do it the old fashioned way. But and then we ended up being really good friends. We ended up starting a company together, and we tried to foray into fitness, but that didn't work out because there was too many cooks in the kitchen. But and over the years, we just maintained good friendship. So that's how that worked out.
That's a great story. I think you're a little bit more intimidating than a lawyer. I think one story of you going around and kicking you guys' ass, I doubt so many IM people are going to start ripping you off.
Well, it was really funny because I didn't know Nathan he had done kickboxing too. So he was like telling me, man, I was scared to death to fight you. I was like, I was going to have to actually stand. It was like one of those scenes out of a movie. It's like, oh man, I would never fight you. You're a friend of mine. But anyway, we kind of laugh about it now because it's just, it's such a ridiculous story. But that's actually what happened. And yeah, I know a lot of guys in the IM space. None of them who are my friends are the guys that rip people off, clearly. But I've known a lot of guys that rip people off like that. And Ryan is not one of them. So
I don't want to spend so much time in this, but I got to ask you, since you've been around for a long time, what do you think of this space and how how polluted it's kind of become? I'm in this space too, and it's almost like everywhere you go, someone's trying to sell you a course. There's a guru popping up left and right. How do you handle this? What do you think of it? And then how do you stand out?
I don't know about standing out. I just, reputation would probably be the thing that, and being around for, since 2004. So it's been doing it for a while. And, having pioneered the VSL, but also copywriting software, which no one had that at the time. So I try to do things that are immediately kind of put you apart in different things that I'm just passionate about. So that's one thing. The other thing, reputations, that's something you cannot buy. You have to earn it. And so everyone that meets me goes, man, you have the best reputation. I never thought about what a reputation would be. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I just sell honest stuff, but, and we try to, the refunds that we do get, we take care of them. It's pretty simple. But as far as the fake gurus out there, I look at track record, how long has somebody done something? But then you have to kind of be judicious about that, because there's always going to be the guy that comes along and creates the next VSL or whatever, does something, and how does he handle himself? So for years after that, I got asked to speak. I wrote 10 VSLs my first year after creating that, and I'd never written any copy at all, ever. I didn't even know really what a copywriter did. So I just got lucky into this model that I seemed to be able to understand and write into. And I wrote, the next one was Truth About Abs, and that thing's gone on to make $100 million probably, but it's still up to this very day, and it's never been beaten. So I don't really know how to explain it, because I've never had any copywriting training, but I'd go around and give copywriting lectures on video sales letters, and I would always preface until about 4 years into it that I think, guys, I'm not a copywriter. I'm not a guru. I'm not an expert. I figured something out. So let me just tell you about it. And so I guess I earned a good reputation like that, because I really didn't feel comfortable going in front of John Carlton and, Clayton and guys like, incredible copywriters all over the world. And, Gary Halbert, Gary Benzavanga, well, not Halbert, but Benzavanga, but, and talking about what I can tell them about copyright. But eventually that kind of wore into people telling me, no, you got to stop saying that now. You've gotten too many good hits on your hands. So you're officially a copywriter, whether you like it or not. So yeah, some of it's that. So I look at how long they've been around, and then just talk to them. Are they grounded? Are they one of the guys they're just into conversions? We've all been there. I'm just in the middle of something right now where I'm like, this is too focused on conversions and not focused enough on getting the right audience. And so it's easy to go that way, right? but it's how you course correct. You got to course correct to make those things work. And so, yeah, so you look at it individually and avoid the hype. I mean, I get copywriting and hype kind of go hand in hand, but there's a difference between being a persuasive writer and being a guy that's a push a button and make $1 million guy. That's not a.
So then how important is it to build your brand? If you're a business, a personal brand, how needed is brand today for long lasting success?
It's a great question considering what the conversation. I just got off the phone with some folks here, and we're looking at redesigning. Funny thing, I mentioned my website because the bio is wrong and everything, but redesigning my personal homepage, because how much is brand worth? I mean, I don't even think about jonbenson.com as a page to tell people to go to. So it's probably more important than what I give it, but forever I was like, it just doesn't matter. What matters is copy. What matters is the words on the page. But now that I'm getting older and I'm getting, I just turned 25. So I'm getting up there in the world. And getting older, and I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that there's a legacy page and stuff. In that sense, branding is important, but not in the, you have to have a super hot logo kind of thing. I mean, we do for Copy Pro, we do for, but yeah, I mean, for now VSL, it's okay. I mean, it's more important to get the words right. So like when we branded Copy Pro, it kind of tells you what it does, right? And so that's more important than look to me. But the social media guys have changed the game of that. And so a lot of influencers, which I'm now kind of trying to merge into craft, getting into that space. That's more important. That's where brand is a little bit more urgent. So we're talking to some of the branding website guys, but I think if I had to tell anyone listening to this to focus on one thing, focus on copy. Copy is going to get you faster, get you more money faster than anything in the world. Learning how to sell. I mean, you'll always have a skill that's in demand, and there is a right way to do it. I think there's many right ways to do it, but there's definitely wrong ways to do it. So learn what the wrong ways are and then avoid them. That's the most important. Less important is brand, I would think.
I want to start really with you've authored a couple of books, right? And I say couple, right? Just a few. You've authored a bunch of books. How do you transition from that into, writing copy to sell, or writing copy to convert, or writing even copy to build affinity? There's a big difference between being an author and being a direct to consumer copywriter.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. So I wrote my second book and thought, okay, I've written 2 books now, and I'm sure I can figure this out. My first sales letter was written by my partner at the time, Tom Venuto. We partnered up for Fit Over 40. He took half to bring in all the affiliates, and turns out it was what a deal I got from this. I mean, I owe Tom like how I started my career. He's a great guy. And then after that, he's like, okay, I'm going to buy you out for $1, and then you go on your merry way, because he has his own projects. And so I'm like, okay, well, I got to do the second page. I never bought a book on copywriting. I'll look at this page and see if I can kind of figure it out. And I said, well, maybe I can take my own stab at this. And it just bombed. I mean, it was just not good at all. And that's what got me into the VSL. That's why I said I have to come up with something different, because the second book I thought was more catchy and more sellable than Fit Over 40 was. But so yeah, that's there is a big difference. And how you make that transition, I made it in a really awkward way, like going into the VSLs and writing in blocks versus writing in the whole page. But over the years, I learned how to tell people how to do that in much shorter time than what I figured out. The first thing you do is when you're writing a book, you can write conceptually. You're not necessarily writing to one person. When you're writing persuasive copy, you're always writing to one person. And every word, every paragraph needs to be drenched with this feeling like I'm reading a letter that's written to me. I'm not reading, blah, blah, ginger copy. I'm reading something that's very specific and written to me. I mean, to this very day, I have people emailing me back and saying, man, thanks a lot for sending me that email today. I don't know where you find time to send it. It's like, they don't know what, they don't know what AWeber, or in our case, Get Responsive would be. So, but yeah, it's, so I want people to have that reaction when they read a letter. Like and when they hear me on a VSL, or on webinar, it's so like, I'm talking to one person. Like I say you and I all the time, for example, like you and I both know, well, how many people are in that conversation? There's 2, right? But there's always 2 people in a conversation. So understanding that from a marketer, that you are not mailing out to 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 million people, you're mailing out to 1. So there's a 2-person conversation going on. unless they're schizophrenic, then there's, however many, but that aside, there's two, right? So, that's super important. It's super important to understand the differences in needs and wants. We get wrapped around our products and wrapped around, hey, we've got this new whiz bang feature, and we forget why people would, why they think they need it. The wants are why people think they need something. So it's a big difference in wants and needs. So you got to understand somebody's wants. You got to understand why, what do they want to do? And so I'll give you copy. We're talking copy here. So weight loss is a great example. I mean, weight loss is kind of odd, because if I say, what do you really want? Somebody might say, I want to lose weight. But underneath that is a whole series of wants that are really why they're wanting to lose weight. Like, I want to fit back into my jeans again. I want to walk down the street without people staring at me. I want to walk past a mirror and not get disgusted with what I feel like. I want to look good naked. I can go down the lines of what people really want, right? Maybe I'll lower my blood pressure because my doctor tells me I'm about to die. I don't want to die. So there you get into I want to avoid death, so those are all the wants behind weight loss. That's far more juicy and impactful and copy ready than I want to lose weight, right? And least of all behind, so I want to lose weight, but even worse than that is, do you want the 4-5-2 mechanism that will allow you to get a quick workout? So I started immediately going to copy. So I just fucked up my own bad example of copy, but so it's like, it's all about the 4-5-2 method, it's the breakthrough jump rope that allows you to, those work for infomercials, sort of, but if you look at an infomercial, it's really all about what people want. It's just visually bombarding people with what they want, and verbally too. But there's less of the, it's the mechanism of the special, unique thing that makes the product special. Like, our software comes with a intelligent memory and blah, and no one gives a shit. They only care, what will it do for me? So getting into the what will it do for me is all about wants, and learning how to speak to someone's wants. And you can shift those wants into persuasive closes with just a little bit of effort.
You opened the door to go so many directions there. So I love it. And we're going to go through every single one of those doors, because I think they offer a ton of value. But I'm going to choose this one to start with. What's your copywriting method? Like, what do you do? How do you plan? How long does it take you to write an email or an ad, et cetera?
Well, so it depends. Like, I don't write a lot of that anymore. CopyPro does most of the emails and ads. I'll come up with concepts, and I don't do. I think how many I wrote for On It last year because I love Joe Rogan, and let me say I can't think of anyone else. So I just have been so focused on the software that I just turn down copywriting gigs and just don't do them anymore. So if I haven't written an email sequence for somebody in 10 years, so I don't know, not 10 years, but 6. So, but if I'm sitting down trying to write something for myself and I want something that, say, CopyPro doesn't have, or that I'm wanting to get totally unique on, I kind of do it. I don't really necessarily have a method, but I do have a process of getting myself into a zone. And I talk about this a lot on my coaching calls. And that's like the concept of the Nietzschean Superman. Okay, bear with me for a second. Like, if you ever read Nietzsche and, talks about the Uberman, the Superman, it's essentially you without neuroses, you without, all the baggage that holds you down. It's the optimized you. Okay. That's who should be writing the letter or the email or the ad, not the, the constipated, broken up with a girlfriend, constantly neurotic guy, whatever the shit that's going through. I made up 3 things that are not pertinent to me. So if anyone's curious, but making up bad stuff that goes through people's minds. Right. And it's so hard to do that. So the only way to do that is you write in character, and you write in the character of yourself. So I have a character of myself that is the John version of the Nietzschean Superman, to where I can pop into that character and I'm writing from an elevated point of view. But at the same time, and this is very difficult to do, you counter all the positive stuff that you're writing with the stuff that's not positive, the stuff that's dark, the stuff that's emotive. Okay, the stuff that really taps into the deeper emotions and the pain points. For that, I tap into the broken self. So I go willfully into my previous self. Okay. But I'm almost looking back from a position of, well, I am looking back from a position of that Superman position. So I'm looking down in a sense, not, in a negative way, but looking backwards in time and saying, I can completely understand where you're coming from, because here's what it felt like for me. But I'm not doing that from a position of any of my normal human frailties. I'm trying to kind of rise above. And when you do that, you can write in a flow state. And flow state allows me to write a whole sales letter in less than a day. So I can do weird things like that. And that's funky, right? To where you can write something and hardly have any edits to it, and you can write it out in less than a day. So because you're in a flow state, you're not in that, you're not constantly, there's not that part of you that's wanting to edit every other word you say or something. So that's my process. Now, there is no process outside of that. There's, VSL formulas. I created the 5-step VSL formula for VSL, so it's locked into my brain. But I'll try to break it occasionally just on purpose, just to see if I see what happens. But so I try to not write inside of a box and just try to let myself go like that. But I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. I think people need outlines. And
now, when you were also talking about the VSL and webinars and the language you use,
mm-hmm.
You talk about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. What are some of the other ways? I know you gave a couple examples there, but I'd love for you to give more and add more value to the listeners. What are some ways you use NLP in your copy or in your videos or in your webinars,
Mm-hmm.
and ways that the listeners can kind of do the same?
It's like giving a baby a loaded weapon. It's something you don't want to do, like saying, here's a trick, because it's like,
I guess I should preface it ethically.
Yeah. Well, it's even, I'm dismissing ethics as being an issue, only because NLP is like a parlor trick, but it's a very good one. And so if I tell someone, oh, here's what I'm doing, they may do it like in the wrong place or do it over and over again. And because they don't have the training that goes behind it. But generally speaking, I'm trying to, by the way, that's not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to be honest with you. One of the ones that people catch on to and they kind of understand a lot, it's, you'll hear me saying all the time in a VSL, you'll hear me saying, by now, you understand that blank. So by now is grammatically very strange, but those are by now is a hypnotic command. And then by now, I will misspell BUYNOW. Okay. So phonically, it sounds exactly like buy as in purchase this now. And I'll say buy now all just throughout the entire VSL. And occasionally I'll misspell it. I'll misspell it on purpose. I've misspelled words on purpose. I think I became famous for misspelling headlines, and people would typing, I bought your book, but you misspelled fat loss. I go, yeah, what word did you notice? So it's like, you notice the word fat loss, right? It actually disarmed you. I did it on purpose. I spelled fat loss, FATLOS. So, people say, oh, you misspelled fat loss. I bought your book. Yeah, I know you. That's why. You don't know that. That's one of the reasons why, but it disarmed you and allowed you to think, okay, this isn't some professional company that's going to charge me an arm and a leg. This is just some guy.
Yeah.
So those are combinations of grammatical tricks and NLP and there's a lot of different things you can do in NLP. I love future pacing, for example. Future pacing is when toward the end of an offer, you can take somebody into the future, but you do that with very purposeful language. Like, I don't say, okay, it's Jason, it's 2 weeks from today. And 2 weeks from today, you're going to feel great. You're going to do this. That's not future pacing. Future pacing is, Jason, walk with me 2 weeks from today. You woke up yesterday, freaked out over the success you're seeing in your inbox. And now it's today, and you're waking up and you're seeing even more success. You're telling everyone about this today, right? So I'm literally talking to you as if you're doing this right now, right? Everything I'm saying is in the future, is in the present tense, but I just mentally walked you 2 weeks into the future. So those are really powerful techniques if used well. And
that's a big sales technique, right? Salesmen try to show you, your end result by walking you through it exactly through future pacing.
Yeah. So there's a way to do that most people do. It's like in less than 2 weeks, you're going to be feeling X, Y, and Z. And that's perfectly fine to do. That's not future pacing. Future pacing is when you say, walk with me here. It's 2 weeks in the future, and it's literally hypnotic. And it's like, you're doing this and you're feeling this, today you did this. I literally say, you got that weird compliment today. Remember, from that person you hadn't seen in years? And she just complimented you out of the blue. It's like, you're like, wow. I mean, I tell stories that can't possibly be true, right? Like, I'm not trying to be true. I'm literally taking somebody into a future vision, right? But that's what future pacing is, and that's NLP. There's just a lot of things you can do with NLP, but it's just a tool. I mean, I, people say I speak in NLP, but I'm not doing it on purpose. It tends to be the way I speak, I think. But yeah, it's something it's not there's great copy that doesn't have NLP in it. There's not great copy that I'm aware of that doesn't have the other things we're talking about persuasion in it, with, the speaking, to one person, conveying someone's wants over their needs, those kind of things. That's usually great copy does that.
What makes a great headline?
Headlines has one purpose and only one purpose. And so usually the best headlines understand this, is to make you curious enough to read the subheadline. So that's the entire purpose of the headline. I mean, that's it, is grab your attention and make you curious enough to read the subheadline. And the subheadline's purpose is?
Yeah, I read a copywriting book a while ago that said the purpose of the first line is to get you to read the second line. The purpose of the second line is to get you to read it's slippery.
It's exactly what it is, right? So what makes a great headline is something I can't say I can look at copy and tell, because when we did Copy Pro, we realized we can't look at copy and tell. Like, our best performing ad for Every Other Day Diet was written by an Israeli guy, and he misspelled a word, but it was grammatically wrong because he spoke Hebrew. And so he wrote it in English, and it sounded like somebody who didn't speak English, and we have never beat it. So if I would have looked at that, I would have said that's a terrible headline. It wasn't. So what I can tell you, what makes it a great headline, is anything that makes me want to read further. That's simple. That's the best definition of a great headline that I've ever heard. Grammatically speaking, and from a words point of view, I mean, sure, I can break it down. I've got headline formulas. Copy Pro's got dozens of the best formulas in there from people that have written headlines from the most famous writers in the world, headline writers in the world. So there are formulas. I mean, like you numbers and juicy verbs. Juicy verbs, I look for, discover is overused, but it does work. But, rather than how to beat your golf score, how to shatter your previous golf score, how to obliterate is even better, how to annihilate. I mean, see, I'm just getting stronger and stronger and stronger with my verbs, and smash your competition, beat your competition, smash your competition is much more visceral. So using visceral language to where, smash, I'm using negatives here, positive in this context, but smash, obliterate, skyrocket. These are words I use a lot in headlines. Something that delivers an immediate promise, an immediate benefit. So if I say, watch this video now to discover the one hidden secret for finding money underneath your couch, so it's like so if somebody wants to find money underneath their couch, they're going to read further, they're going to watch a little bit of the video. I have not written that headline, by the way, so don't take this seriously. But
well, let me know when you come
exactly,
up.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're finding $100 million underneath your couch, something insane like that. Well, so some insane promise, right? But a promise that you can fulfill on. The subheadline is about describing how it works, the mechanism of the promise, but it still has to spill them over into the dear reader line. So, headlines are an art. I mean, there's some of the best headlines I've seen were like, I saw a 2-word headline that was fantastic the other day. It just said, "Can't poop?" ? That's 2 mentions of constipation.
I think
really
you're
weird for a guy that's
not.
That's not an issue with me, but maybe I'm like future pacing. No, hope not. But no, I just saw that. And
maybe if you're future pacing me, you're like walking me through this.
I actually reached out to the company and said I want to actually sell the product because it was so well written. So 2-word headline, and so you can use that kind of a simple. So obviously, if someone's got that problem, they're gonna keep reading, right? I mean, how simplistically can you say something, And then you got the John Carlton style headlines, which is, breakthrough golf swing revealed, one-legged golfer obliterates. This is kind of like crazy. So he's got a hook in the headline, right? The one-legged golfer is one of the greatest hooks in golf copywriting history, right? It's just, you can't get that image out of your head. So a lot of people try to find the equivalent of a one-legged golfer, but the "can't poop" headline, that doesn't have that. It doesn't need that. So there are different ways. It just has to grab your attention, but you cannot forget the one-legged golfer.
No,
So
you talked about, simplistically writing copy. Uh,
mhm.
so that being said, long form or short form?
You mean which?
Like copy for an ad. Like, there's so many different camps, and I think it really doesn't matter, and it all depends.
Yeah.
That's my personal thing, but I'd love to hear from the copy man himself. Long form ad copy or short form ad copy?
Ad copy, yeah, it's a flip of the coin. To be honest with you, I don't know. I can tell you for sales letters, long form. I mean, it's just long form just obliterates the short form sales letters, and with very few exceptions. I mean, the few exceptions being like an e-com product or something where it's some super obvious that what you want, you don't really need anything other than bullets. But if you're selling anything that requires a conceptual understanding or a perception shift, or if you're in a marketplace that's already crowded and you have something with a unique mechanism, you better strap in for long form copy because it's not going to work any other way, generally speaking.
Copywriting, I found, we talked about this earlier, that it's begun to make a resurgence. And what I mean by that is I think it's a completely undervalued skill right now. I run a marketing agency, so I know that when media buying got put into play, people began thinking all ads were about was pushing a button or targeting.
Right.
The old school advertisers like the Ogilvies and who had to rely on copy to write a letter and sell through that way. Why do you think people are sleeping on it as a skill or the need to learn copywriting?
Because it's hard. Unless you have software. That's why we created it, software for VSL, software for copy. But yeah, it's hard. There's very few A-list copywriters in the world. I mean, I think there's probably 20 of us. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying there's only 20 good copywriters. I'm just saying 20 guys that you would think of and you know their names. It's just not a, it's a weird person that the only normal guy I know that's a copywriter is Gary Benzavenga. I mean, and I've only met Gary once, but he's such a charming, normal, completely down to earth, lovely guy that isn't like most of us, which are, broken beyond repair and morbidly twisted in ways and very dark in other ways and fun, just kind of, most of us, there's so many of us that are musicians. I mean, I was a professional musician, but you got, Kevin Rogers, me, John Carlton, I mean, all musicians. And so you got right there, you got a host of problems with people that are musicians. So you got that there's a weird, I want to say rock star element to it without sounding like a dick, but that is really there is a weird vibe that's almost rock starish where you're just, you think they're going to implode. And like with Gary Halbert, he did, with others that I know that they did. And that's not something anybody wants. So that's part of it. You have to have a certain temperament to even kind of do it, because there is an artistic side to it. That's my best guess.
It's funny that you said rock star, because I kind of look at, like, now that you said it, I kind of see, I mean, I used to play the bass, right? So that was my instrument. That's what I used to play, quotation marks, but I kind of look at copywriting as the bassist in the band, not the coolest guy out there. Not the one everyone looks in the band and wants to be. Everyone wants to be the lead singer, the lead guitarist, or the drummer. No one wants to be the bassist, but he's the one holding all the beats together.
Hey, as a former professional bass player, I'm looking at
that's sweet.
Yeah, I got a channel dedicated to this stuff. Geddy Lee and John Taylor would disagree with you. Most of the girls wanted John Taylor. So every band I was in, all the girls wanted. I'm convinced of that. I convinced myself of that. So, no, I get what you're saying. It's like you see Aerosmith, you don't notice Tom Hamilton, but he's holding down the back end. But then, the copywriters are more of the Geddy Lees of the world, the more of the soloists, and more of the the guys that you do notice. You go see Weather Report because of Jocko, and hardly anyone knows the other guys in the band. I mean, I do because I love jazz, but yeah, it's that kind of mentality. There's something weird to it. I can't really put my finger on it, but yeah, I think, Chris Haddad, very strange, brilliant guy. I can just go to the line of all my friends that are, I think Craig Clemens is probably, I'd say the most normal, but I kind of know he's not. But he's kind of normal. But yeah. And then, yeah,
I was
and
just gonna say.
I just told you that we're, yeah, there's kind of a cowboy spirit to the copywriting you're still in. So,
I was just gonna say, off topic, favorite bassist?
God, well, I studied with Jeff Berlin, so he's definitely up there. I just covered Three Sheets to the Wind by Alan Holdsworth, and Jeff's playing bass, and it's a really difficult song. But favorite bassist to, most of my covers are Rush songs, and I think I picked Rush because as a kid, the first time I heard Hemispheres, I was like, okay, this is something this is something unworldly. I'll never be able to play. And I just covered all the Hemispheres, but it's like that changed my whole perspective of music. Was changed entirely when I heard 2112 and Hemispheres, and so fell in love with Rush early on. Still in love with Rush. It has never changed. So, and then when I went to MIT and I studied with Berlin out there, and I was almost afraid to tell this jazz legend that I was a fan of Rush. And I did the first day. He goes, "Oh, I love Rush. Fucking love Rush." He goes, "I'm a big fan." So it's like, I was like, we were right. I knew I was in the right place. Right. So yeah, Jocko, obviously. There's guys like, that don't have a lot of names to them. Like a lot of people don't know their names, but,
for me, hearing, so I think Flea is super talented, and Victor Wooten.
Vic, yeah, super nice guy too. Very, very, very good person. They're more slap guys. Like, if I'm going in that direction, I'm going Mark King.
Like Victor Wooten's national anthem,
Victor.
like that national anthem was like one of the first things that turned me on to the instrument.
Sure, yeah. Wooten's got a cool style. I've just boycotted any slapping at all. But look who I studied with under Berlin. Yeah. Who's like, it's all fingers, and so that's just more my preference. But if I was going to go in the slap bass, it'd be Vic or it'd be Mark King or guys like that. But yeah, for me, I'm looking at melody and guys that basically play the music guitar. So yeah.
All right, I don't want to take the listeners down this route because I don't think they tuned in for this, but I'm fascinated. We'll continue this conversation offline.
Yeah.
Back to copy. I find most people aren't great at selling let alone face to face. But now it comes to writing words to sell to complete strangers you've never even been in front of before, people you never met. What are some of the things that you see most people doing wrong? And I guess, how do we correct it?
Other than what we talked about earlier, it's like, coming up with headlines that are, either ridiculous or that don't convey an immediate benefit. I talk about the importance of a modest introduction, like a rapport building kind of strategy, right? And you have a lot of guys, especially in the IM space, that do this, that it's, the first thing you see is them and their 4 Ferraris or whatever. So you've distanced yourself so far from the guy that's watching the video that the people buying your products are the guys that are going to be impressed by that, which it's, historically and statistically are the worst possible clients you could ever have. So I think what you want to do is the ideal superstar seller is someone who is perceived as extremely capable, but as just a few rungs above the ladder as the person watching it. Someone that's looking at going, one day I'd like to get there, but he's not that far ahead of me, right? That's a hard thing to do with words. And there are ways to do it to where you can say, yeah, it's true that I'm here and here, but you know what? I started here. So there's in telling more of the start story to where they hear in the mind, okay, I do, I've got this $10 million a year business or whatever it is. But really it's all about, I'm more focused on making a couple $100 a day from this one product. Because if I do that and replicate it over and over again, then it adds up and you can make a couple $100 a day. So I'm just giving you like an example of what I'm talking about.
No, but I love that example because it goes against everything you see right now where people front or people lie and try to glamorize their life and no one wants to talk about the struggles or the authenticity behind it. The influencer state of, look at me, I made millions of dollars. Here's my rented boat with a bunch of rented models versus, starting off and what you're actually saying is 100% right. That's not relatable.
Yeah. It's, people buy from people that know, like, and trust usually. And now copy changes that. Copy gives you a super weapon that is or superpower rather, that is like a weapon, and it's something that can be used for, nefarious means. But it's best not to do that. It's best to back off of that superpower and use it to communicate and connect with somebody. Because people are, through a VSL, it's hard to tell, but through camera, it's pretty obvious who's lying to you. I mean, unless they're sociopaths that are very good at lying. I was married to one, so I know a little bit about that, but very good liars. But yeah, crazy and flamboyant guys are not going to resonate with the average person. So you want to resonate with the average person. It's very similar, like in fitness. Like when I wrote my first fitness book, of course I want to be on the cover because it's like my first book, and naturally you want to be on the cover. And I said, no, I'm thinking in my head, I go, look, let's not shoot, because I just did a photo shoot. Let's not shoot the cover shirtless, because it's like, that's a little much. People probably don't want to be, into bodybuilding and stuff. So I'll wear a tank top. And then Tom saw the cover. He goes, dude, that will never sell. He goes, that will never sell. I go, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to scare people. I go, dude, I'm a natural guy. I'm 40 years old. I mean, how scary can I be? He goes, no, you don't see yourself for what you are. So he photoshopped a shirt on me. And it was still too much. It was like, now looking back, I would wear like a normal shirt and like show my waist. That's my shirt tucked in. It's like, because you have to get outside of yourself, right? Outside of what you think people want to see. And sure, maybe I would show a picture inside in case somebody, gets off on that stuff. But same thing goes for money making. It's like, it's so much better if you see like a guy that's got a biz op product and he's with his family and kids and a dog, I mean, it's more inviting than a guy that's on a rented yacht with the rented models and the not rented butt floss. I mean, that's just, the butt floss is nice, but everything else, I just do without. But
when it comes to VSL, email, and ad copy, what are the main differences? Obviously, copy wise.
Oh my God, that's fast. I mean, it's like. Well, a VSL is geared around a story and a hook, right? So ads, not so much. They can tease a story. So ads tend to be much shorter. You need to think about what's the hottest benefit that I can do to drive somebody to read the next line of the ad. And so that's why I think most ads are better short. I mean, there's exceptions to that, of course, but so yeah, a VSL is geared around hypnotically telling a story. So it's a big difference than an ad. An ad is geared around 7-second attention span. So and they both have a 7-second attention span to maintain it, but your ad should be in and out like that, right? And your VSL has to have people stick around to keep reading and get to evoke interest. A VSL is almost like a book. You'll read the next page if the previous page was interesting. Only if the previous, if pages start getting boring, you just put the book down.
Any tricks when you're writing email? Like I know Frank Kern talks about this a lot, the spacing, the hypnotic reading of like 3 lines and then 2 lines and then a space, does all that come into play when you write or when you used to write?
When I think about it, it does. Joe Vitale was really into that too. And he was a really good email writer. So I've never heard Frank talk about the spacing thing. I've heard him talk about other things, but yeah, I mean, like symmetry. Like I do like, equispacing inside things. So like, 2-line space, 2-line space, link, 2-line space or whatever. But, so it comes into mind, but I tend to be more focused on what I'm saying just because I'm a copywriter. So less focused on the
first time I ever heard that is because I started writing like that. And the reason why I write like that is because I don't have great grammar, but I write the way I would speak. And the way I would speak comes in shorter sentences, longer sentences. It would come with, the 3 dots, there's the pause and whatnot. Sure. And that's how I wrote. And that's literally every single thing that I've ever written like that has been my best performing versus something polished.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not a polished, the ugly video sales letter guy. I mean, I've introduced myself like that and people say, I've had one person say, dude, the fact that you call yourself ugly all the time is really off-putting. I was like, I didn't get thought I was saying anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, the video sales letter.
Yeah. I'm good looking. The sales letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
You
But
should
yeah,
just say, I'm the good looking author of the
yeah,
ugly
right.
sales letter.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the fitness model author of the, yeah, the dots and getting, it's all about getting people to read the next line, right? It's all about how do you encourage them to not scan the email, but to digest the email. There's a massive difference in scanning and digesting, right? I mean, you get emails that are so good that you just want to read every word of it. That's the secret to that is how people are using the words, where they're using the verbs. Sometimes it's line breaks, sometimes it's spaces, sometimes it's just how it's written. Sorry, I got a cotton mouth this morning. 1 second. I swear, I'm starting to feel like Nancy Pelosi, but I don't have dentures. She might as well do every talk like this, you know. Yeah.
I want to continue. I want to continue to give great value here.
I just turned half the country off with that statement. So
It's okay. Don't worry. The ones that are still listening are going to love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially with my next question. My next question is I want to continue giving value by naming like some top secret tips, life-changing tips. And if you're not listening, it's too late. You're missing it. Some top secret tips to write, whether it's email or ads or VSL that converts. You know, maybe a few tips for each if you want to. It depends how deep you want to go.
Well, okay. So I'll do copy in general. But aside from the obvious, you know, buy my software because this will save you a fortune in time and effort.
It's the next question.
Okay, so if you're writing something from scratch, right, and you want to just learn how to do that, which is great. First of all, do what I said earlier. You know, put yourself into that state. Write to one person. Get a picture of your avatar. Put it on your monitor if you have to. Just if you write a sentence that doesn't sound like it's written to that person, scratch the sentence. Go to run your copy through Flush Kincaid score. So you can find out, and just Google that. You can find out what it is if you don't know what it is, but you should be writing at a 4th grade level, 5th grade level. Yeah. So if you're coming in a 9th grade level, yeah, that's bad. That's bad. So think 4th grade level, ideally 5th grade or 4th or 5th grade level. It doesn't matter if you're writing to doctors, by the way. This is, you're talking about persuasion here. And yeah, the last tip I would give outside of those things and outside of everything we've already talked about would have to be, this one's a little bit more esoteric, but it's going to make sense when I explain it. Most people are operating with half of their OS just completely bogged down by poor nutrition, poor health, poor access to the higher parts of the brain. So I thrive in ketosis, so most people do. And so if you're in ketosis, it's a super weapon for sure. I said that again. It is a superpower. It really is. And it is a secret weapon. So I'm going to get those two right. It really is.
There's some great copy in NLP right here, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Just switching stuff around. But yeah, being in ketosis really helps because your brain isn't running on glucose. And so it's ketones are basically rocket fuel to me. So I granted, I know people who are watching this, they're not going to relate to what I'm saying, but whatever it takes to eat your way into a healthy mental and physical framework. Because if you're writing against yourself, you're never going to write. I mean, it's just never going to happen. It's, so might as well, put your brain and your body in the most optimal state possible. So whether that's,
I had Dave Asprey on from Bulletproof, and he kind of went deep in all this. So if they're still listening, they get it.
Yeah, if they're still listening after the Pelosi line, yeah. But yeah, now if you're a vegan, Nancy Pelosi lover, you're probably tuned off. But in case you haven't, keep watching. Yeah, I definitely recommend taking really good care of yourself, finding out what that is. If I know I'm writing something, I know I'm going to be in ketosis. I'm usually in ketosis all the time, but I'll definitely be in for at least 3 or 4 days deep, and then I know that my brain's just not going to be tired, so I'm going to be writing full efficiency.
I think one of the biggest mistakes I see when it comes to people writing copy is the need to exaggerate or lie.
Yeah.
How important is, I guess that's a wrong way to phrase the question because it should be super important. But, you write a ton of copy. What are your takes on people who exaggerate or lie? Like, I mean, you could tell the truth and still do a great job. Just sometimes the truth isn't as sexy.
Okay. So I've said this for years and it's true. You don't ever have to lie to write compelling copy. exaggerate is a different story. So exaggerate, like if I say, for example, I truly believe anyone watching this right now, which I wouldn't say because I'm talking to one person, but let's say I did say that. Anyone watching this right now can do what I'm about to show you. Well, that's an exaggeration, because what if somebody watching this is, functionally, mentally ill or yeah. So yes, so that's purposeful exaggeration. So, which I distinguish that between that and a lie. There's some things that you want to do. You don't want to say, unless you are in a vegetative state, but you could do that in a humorous way. You could say, okay, I'll tell you, everyone watching this right now can do this, except for the fallen people. If you're in a vegetative state, if you've just got out of a coma, if you were currently in a car wreck, then you could do something funny, right? But see, that funniness that we just said led from the ability of like, well, okay, let's not exaggerate. But now, so you can actually come up with really clever ways to not exaggerate. Live omission is another issue. Like that's debatable. In a relationship is never debatable, but in copy, only because if you're saying like, well, here's what really sucks about my product. So that's, you probably don't want to do that. And the other thing is, like, you might say something that, bothers you, but it wouldn't bother anyone else. And so you're losing sales. But as far as like outright lying, yeah, that's a real problem. And it's just not necessary. You don't have to lie you shouldn't have to lie to ethically persuade somebody to do something. If you believe in the product, then there's not much to lie about. Like, and I'll give you a great example of like, when I talk about people, like, learning how to write copy or just buy my software. Okay, well, yeah. So buying the software would work for 80% of the people watching it. For 20% of the people, they still may need some stuff, right? So I'm not going to say that out loud, not because I'm afraid of losing sales, because it's just a speed bump that doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to omit things like that, because I don't know that if I said 80% of the people watching and then 20, I don't know that either. So when you go down this rabbit hole with a guy that was a philosophy major, which I ended up with a philosophy degree, you're going to go down a deep one. So it's like, well, what, tell me how we would define lie first, right? But lying to close a sale is never cool to me. Lying to tell a story, in other words, if I told a story and I combined 3 characters into one, like I would in a book, that's not lying to me. That's just convenience. So if I'm telling a story about a guy that said, well, he actually went to Arkansas to find this herbal medicine, but instead I changed it to Peru because Peru sounds sexier. Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with stuff like that, because I want the story to be really compelling. But if I'm selling something and it's called Peruvian gold or whatever, then that would be a lie, right? So in other words, if you're lying to sell a product, so where you land on that spectrum, you have to kind of determine for yourself. But yeah, a lot of guys just flagrantly lie. They make up testimonials. They they lie about the efficacy of the product.
So you've teased us throughout this whole podcast about Copy Pro. So now let's do it. Let's talk about Copy Pro.
Right.
Tell us what it is, who needs it, aside from the everyone, but yeah,
even people in a vegetative state need that.
But not a coma.
Yeah, definitely not a coma. But yeah, okay. So Copy Pro is augmented intelligence software that is the combination of over 40 of the world's greatest copywriters and marketers all came together to create, all participated rather, and helped us create the world's greatest copy library. But it does something really cool. It takes these templates that we already know work from the masters, and it intelligently rewrites them with your words and using the niches that you want to be in to work for you. And that's what's really amazing about it. So it's never been done before. It's been often imitated, never copied. And that is a tool that I don't think anyone that needs words that sell anything should do without. It's like, because you're going to be writing this yourself, you're going to be putting in the hours doing this yourself. And for example, let's say that you needed an abandoned cart email, that that's super important. Would you rather have yours that you write on your own, or would you rather have Agora Publishing's, a $300 million marketing juggernaut that's tested everyone under the sun? So it gets to be a really kind of silly. Would you rather have your own promotional emails or digital marketers machine library emails? So I mean, I'd rather have the best promotional emails in the world. So now if you could push a button or a few buttons and have that come out to sounding like you wrote it, Now you got something that's really rocking. That's what CopyPro is.
Which is different, right? Because you're not saying like, because if I'm an agency and another agency comes on board, we're not getting the same piece of copy that's coming out.
Right. So yeah. So one of the things that CopyPro does really well is it intelligently rewrites things. Now, not every one of our templates does, but we're getting close to where every one of our templates do this. So they're called dynamic blueprints. So they're dynamic because the machine is smart enough to be able to understand that if this sentence says this and the next sentence says that, what are 10 other ways of saying that, to where you can break it into different paragraphs, different dynamic fields come in, and it literally reads as two different emails or letters or whatever you're doing. But there's the structure that's underneath it. Like, we know this structure has, okay, open loop, going into a big promise, going into a big reveal, going into avoid this. We know there's a pattern underneath it, right? And so we keep the pattern the same, and we keep the general gist of the template the same, but we change the words. So your words are different. You could be in the same exact business as somebody else and looking at the same template, and they read differently.
So are there lines we fill out, or it's copy and paste our copy in there and you spit out a new version of it?
No, it's stuff that you fill out. We do the copywriting. So you fill in the blanks, that, or you let us fill in the blanks, because we have, niches that we've already built for 40 of the most popular niches. But So if let's say you're starting something completely different, underwater basket weaving or something, you would fill in those blanks because we don't know what that is, right? But you do know what it is, and we show you the blanks to fill in, and actually teach you how to fill in those blanks, to where we give you some copy secrets to filling in the blanks. So we've broken it in. CopyPros are really unique because it's broken down into a format of verb, pronoun, subject. So in other words, we make people think in terms of verbs, and copywriters, from Clayton Makepeace, RIP, to Halbert, to John Caples, to me, to we are all big verb guys, right? So giving someone a choice of verbs to create a sentence forces you into being a verb person, whether you're a copywriter or a stay-at-home mom or whatever. So it's the way that we do things forces you into a way of having to write something, quote unquote, write something that's not writing. You're just kind of filling in blanks, but that when you see it in context, it comes out persuasive. So
sounds awesome.
That's what CopyPro is in a nutshell.
I mean, I'm going to wrap up here. I want to ask you this question, because you've been in the game for a long time. If you could go back in time and tell yourself something about this industry, about copy, that something that you wish you knew back then that you know now, what would it be?
I often say I would have stayed with my first book and made it into a brand, because Fit Over 40 is kind of a brand by itself. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be the geriatric fitness guy. I wanted, so that was probably a business mistake. But as far as a copy thing goes, if I had to do it all over again, I would tell my younger self to focus on just write out a bunch of wants that the person has, and ask a demographic that's similar to this demographic, or the avatar. Ask that demographic if that resonates with them before I write anything. Like, which one of these resonates with you the most? And you do a survey, right? And you get a scale of 1 to 5, and then you got 10 different bullets or whatever, 10 different, wants, needs, whatever. In this case, it's wants. And now the top 5 that resonates with an audience. And so I'd write around that. And then I go, which one's the best? And I would make the headline around that. In other words, let other people tell you what to write. Okay. Let them be the judge of it, because you don't know, things that you write, you don't always know. And that's hard to do. It's a pain in the ass to do that, but it's well worth it.
Well, it sounds like less work than what the Ogilvies and, the Eugene Schwartz of the world have to do. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then once you have that, you use CopyPro. Yeah,
that's the other thing you can do. You can, use CopyPro. Now VSL, use those two tools go together. So, if you're wanting VSLs, now VSL. If you're wanting the rest of your CopyPro. It's just that simple.
John, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this. For the listeners who want to reach out to you and want to learn more, how can they find you?
Copypro.ai and nowvsl.com. So those are the two best places to find me.
Amazing. Thank you, John. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jason.